Right. So you want to go back to money and technology?
Yeah. Let's do the money. The money thing. I think we have 10 minutes left. Let's talk about what is perfect money. If money is not a store of value and what have you, like what is the thing? What do you think money is in the future? I know you said in the money in the future you don't think we'll even have numbers attached to money.
Correct.
You just think it'll just be happening, which I think is a tremendous evolution.
Sure. Comes back to money. So without any other party, money is just language, right? And so if you would walk out right now and you saw a number on a banana and it didn't have a dollar sign attached to it, you would assume it's dollar, right? And so in my mind, what's going to happen once we have peer-to-peer cash, whoever is actually creating peer-to-peer cash, and there's a long list of facilities to peer-to-pear cash. I actually started creating this big Excel sheet yesterday. That has
We'll share it if you want.
Well,
put it
I
up
will.
on
I
the
will.
podcast.
I want to share this with all the different groups that are working on CBDCs, because that's the one thing they need to understand. In essence, what you want to combine the best of all worlds, because account-based systems make sense and they're working fine right now, but they also have drawbacks. The main drawback being that they're all, as far as I know, all database driven. And databases, they can't be protected, they can't be secured. Databases have usually a single operator. Databases can be hacked. Databases have access issues.
They're honeypots. They're honeypots.
That's definitely a
targets.
good way to put it. But then also, you're introducing all these other secondary exposure, like, because this particular company also then has their own obligations. They also have their own contracts, and so you're piling inefficiencies on inefficiencies, right? And so. Let's look at the physical cash that we have right now, right? So physical cash is really good in terms of what it does. And I mean, surprisingly, and that's another number that I like big numbers, right? So that's another number I still look up. Surprisingly, there's still a lot of cash floating around. People use cash quite a bit still in daily use, such as like more than 20% on a daily basis. So
it's not a green technology, though, as I understand it. Paper money is really toxic and bad. But putting that aside, it's old technology. It's analog, right? We have to move into the information age.
Right, but it has a lot of the facilities that we like, right? It's a bearer instrument. I hand it over and it settles the transaction. Although it's not quite correct if you think about it, that it settles the transaction because I gave you a note. Right?
You still have to get to the bank or something.
Well, no. I mean, it's a note. It's a dead instrument. You have a claim against the Federal Reserve. So if the Federal Reserve do not honor the claim, then...
Or hyperinflates the currency so that it's easy to honor the claim.
So for us in the United States, it doesn't seem to be a problem. But if you were in India a couple of years ago and you watched the news, you just learned that the 50 and what was it, $500 and $1,000 rupee notes, they're no longer legal tender all of a sudden, right?
So suddenly that's no longer money.
So in that particular case, and maybe too anecdotal to hold any water, but I think that
it doesn't hold the reliability factor, right? It needs to be reliable.
The point is simply so the physical cash still has also some drawbacks, and we call it typically it's settlement. But if you think about it, there's nuances to that. That would be the other example. If I buy something, right, and so let's say you buy a coconut and I give you $5 for it, I can eat the coconut, I can smash the coconut. You can set that money on fire. That's actually illegal.
Yep.
You can't do anything that will make it not fit for use, because you actually have only possession but not ownership. So, but you gave me ownership, and there's different.
I think that's a key connotation, because I think we need money that we do own.
That is correct.
Right? We need money not from a private institution that is providing this function or service for us, but we need our own.
Yeah. So right now you don't get ownership. It doesn't matter.
But with a DAO, you
could,
right? If a DAO was giving all the same functions of the Federal Reserve, suddenly.
Right. So what we want to do is we want to look for all these facilities of cash, right, and then combine them with all the facilities of accounts, and then again, it's like how you create this stuff, how you move it, how you store it, who gets to store it, and who may or may not get to store it. And then you pick all the best facilities that you want, and you implement this into your peer-to-peer instrument. My prediction is that one government will do this by accident.
Which I can't. All right, taking bets. Who thinks? Which government do you think is going to get it? I'm gonna go with something like Croatia or Moldova.
In my current thesis is that some small government will peg their own currency to the US dollar, like we've seen a dozen times across history. When their own currency failed too many times, eventually they just waved the white flag and said, "Oh, okay, we'll just peg our currency to the US dollar." And those countries still work with a peg to the US dollar, and it works fine for them. So think about it this way: if that was to happen with a true peer-to-peer digital bearer instrument, and that's anonymous, that can be held by 100 different wallets on different devices, and on your Android phone, on your Linux computer.
Would Bitcoin meet the requirements for this?
Well, no.
No. Okay.
Again, it's not language. That's the point. It's missing the language part. The universal value language in the United States and outside of the United States for a lot of other people is the US dollar. So most people will fall to their secondary language of value if their own currency fails, which has been traditionally throughout history the US dollar.
And do you think that's going to maintain? Do you think that's going to be consistent, at least for the foreseeable future?
Well, again, it actually kind of doesn't matter. What I mean by that is, so from a technology perspective, so that's why I have those big classes of different money. So right now there's about, what was it here, like $600 billion sitting in checking accounts, right? So this is like the nearest thing to cash, right? I can move it around, and there's all these different ways I can move it around. So I can use my debit card. I was going to say credit cards, but credit is actually a topic.
Whole other issue, right?
Well, credit is something that belongs into the identity part, which is, again, a super important thing to understand if you're building technology, because you have to build that slot, I called, on the identity side, not on the money side.
Got it.
It's simply wrong to put it into the money stack. It's a key lock system. But the point there being is, already what we do on a manual basis, that was what I was alluding to earlier, you avoid things that are inflationary. Naturally, right? And the way you avoid it right now, you create your basket of what you think is a store of value. So you buy a house, and maybe you hold some stocks or hold some bonds, whatever you think. That's why store of value is very, very personal. Right?
Subjective.
And
Subjective.
Typically people don't just hold on to one thing and that's their store of value. That's why like talking about gold and stuff as a store of value. No, store of value is just usually a basket of things. I would not recommend to anybody just store all your value in one thing, right? That makes no sense. And people ask me in terms of crypto, it's like, well,
what's your favorite is what everyone always asks.
And I always say, well, I wouldn't put 100% of my money into Bitcoin. I also wouldn't put 0% in it. It's probably the right number, depending on how old you are and when you need it back. It's kind of anywhere between 1 and 10%. It's definitely not zero.
Yeah,
that's gross negligent, because it's such a great lottery ticket. But the larger point here being, though, so once you develop the technology in the right way, let's say you have a smart wallet, and we see hundreds in development right now, right? So then your wallet just would make it so that you don't have to hold on to an inflationary asset. You would never know, it just does it.
It would just manage it for you.
It just and we're already seeing that right now. DeFi is just going through the roof.
We're going to see like AI managed assets, AI managed personal life, right?
Right, and it's just not correlated right now. That's why I was saying, once you have a central bank digital currency, and it will likely be one that's US dollar pegged, and it's too bear instrument, you just remove that friction. So right now, there's always friction in the on and off ramps. Usually it's like 1% or more, right? But if you can seamlessly, let's call it via atomic swap, move into a fiat money, right? Because someone wants it for payment. That's the only reason why you would use it. And eventually those people also will be encouraged not to use that for payment, because it's another point of friction, because she has to still transfer it back to something that's not inflationary. That's why I said money is the ultimate network technology.
You only use that when you're actually going to buy something.
Yeah, exactly. So
which is kind of how I've been living my life for the past couple of years.
Everybody has, right? Everybody has. I mean, very few people live in a cash-only kind of thing where they put cash under the mattress and that's how they move their life. Unfortunately, there's still more than you would think, but that's not a great way to live. But the larger point here being is, so you always want to reduce kind of this exposure to this inflationary asset. Once you can automate this, the exposure eventually will go to zero. So the classes that we call, that the Fed calls M0, which is the physical cash, the classes that the Fed calls M1, which includes physical cash and things like a checking account, should like go next to nothing. So at that point in time, think about it. All the other things are lending, right? They all fall into the lending category. So only when you spend something, and then also only if someone wants some legacy fiat, you would, for that split second, move into that inflationary asset. So at that point in time,
at the time of transaction,
that's it, right? For a nanosecond. So think about it. Once you have that in circulation,
so we need atomic swaps, which we're working on, right?
We already have those. Yeah. Again, it's all the value, all the work, and all the attention needs to be given to the on and off ramps and make those frictions remove. And we have little tidbits here and there, little highlights here and there that make this possible. It's just not very easy right now. It's really hard work, and then there's the legal regulatory part.
And you can manually do it yourself, but it's slow, and sometimes it may take days to move out of the safe asset into the dangerous one, right?
Yeah, I mean this is being sped up. I mean, if it's already digital, right? Then
it should just be.
And if it's already bearer instrument, then there's this whole DeFi ecosystem that's doubling right now every couple of weeks.
And that's going to continue, right?
That's going to continue. But right now, it's very much insulated from the real world, right? So right now, those on and off ramps, because of their frictions, don't play a role. If you remove that friction, if you remove that, call it simply remove the 1% fee, and you find out a different business model, and that's the other part. If you don't create new friction, i.e. if you're not doing quote-unquote KYC in the wrong way, you're non-custodial about that, at that point in time, it's basically game over, right? You just did exactly where we came from, what we need. You created peer-to-peer money.
So ultimately, that's the goal here: peer-to-peer money that has these qualities.
And so now you got the first thing that does this, that you also understand. That's the most important part. It's money as a language. It's money that you understand. It's one-to-one what you already thought in your head that is money. Then eventually you don't really need that symbol anymore, right? It will be just the one. Just like we don't have many voice over IP protocols. We have one voice over IP protocol. I speak into it.
Just disappears, right?
Voice comes out, and if someone on the other end wants to see a different symbol in front of that, and you alluded to this earlier, we have this Babelfish function, right? Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy Babelfish function.
Just happens on the way over.
That just shows it to you, and that happens already, by the way, right now, right? I mean, obviously, when you have a digital wallet, what do you see? You see the translation in the language of value that you understand next to your Bitcoin price, next to your Ether price.
And you could change that in any time. You could say, I want to look at what it's worth in euro today.
Well, and obviously if you're in euro, that's it shows it to you in euro. So
precisely.
What does it tell you? It doesn't matter. So in short, and I've been saying this sentence for I don't know how long now, the default medium of exchange has been bytes for decades. The unit of account doesn't really matter, right? It's just language. It's irrelevant to the bytes, and the bytes should move at lightning speed. Store of value function is whatever you decide that your particular basket is, and it could go into the lending market, or it could go towards whatever else. Most of the time it's going to be lending, I think. At least that's the indication that we see now in DeFi. But other than that, like whenever you conflate the functions, that is the problem. That's the legacy problem. People keep doing this with concepts like stable coins and so forth. That's like intellectual time travel, and that's why I'm so mad about academics still teaching the old definition of Jevons. It hasn't been right at the time, and it's definitely not right today, because those functions have been split a long time ago. If they were ever relevant in combination together, they were hardly ever relevant. There was like a tiny part of the population for who that definition made sense for the technology that was money at the time for a short period of time. Anyway, I think we're at the end of our time.
I look forward to us being able to talk about money again soon. I love the idea of money just losing its numerical, like just kind of falling into the background where we're not even paying attention. Just resource allocation happening organically because we've built the technology to manage it for us. And I think that's the future. So I really look forward to building that future with you. I'm sure we're going to be working together on a lot of things in the coming months, but you got to come back. I always love seeing you. I always love a ton of stuff from you. So, we're probably going to be talking about personhood until we're old men and until someone has figured it out. Bye.